Statins are often praised as life-saving drugs, but new research suggests they may be quietly harming muscles in a very specific way, and it could completely change how these medications are designed in the future. Breakthrough overview. Statins have long been a cornerstone treatment for lowering cholesterol and cutting the risk of heart attacks and strokes, and they have helped protect millions of people worldwide from serious cardiovascular events. Yet many patients report frustrating side effects, especially muscle aches, weakness, and fatigue, and in rare but frightening cases, severe muscle breakdown that can damage the kidneys. The big question has always been, why do these muscle problems happen in some people but not others, and can anything be done about it without losing the heart protective benefits? What the UBC team discovered. A research group at the University of British Columbia, working with colleagues at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, has now identified a detailed mechanism that explains how statins can injure muscle cells. Their study, recently published in the journal Nature Communications, offers a molecular-level explanation that could guide the development of new statin drugs designed to be gentler on muscle tissue while still being powerful against cholesterol. The key muscle protein involved. The scientists focused on a crucial muscle protein called the ryanodine receptor 1, RYR1, which acts like a calcium gate inside muscle cells. Under normal conditions, this gate opens only when a muscle needs to contract, allowing calcium to flow out briefly and then closing again so the cell can reset. When this delicate system works properly, muscles can repeatedly contract and relax without damage. How statins disrupt muscle calcium. Using an advanced imaging method known as cryo-electron microscopy, the team was able to visualize how statins interact with the RYR1 protein at extremely high resolution. What they observed is that statins can bind to this calcium channel in a way that forces it to stay open longer than it should, causing calcium to leak continuously inside muscle cells, a harmful situation that can stress and ultimately damage muscle tissue over time. This constant leak of calcium provides a clear biological explanation for why some people feel muscle pain, weakness, or, in severe cases, experience dangerous muscle breakdown while on statin therapy. A closer look at atorvastatin. The study examined atorvastatin, one of the most commonly prescribed statins worldwide, as a representative example. The researchers found that statin molecules behave in a surprisingly complex way when they interact with RYR1. Instead of a single molecule attaching, 3 molecules work together inside a pocket of the protein. First, one statin molecule appears to bind when the channel is still closed, essentially priming it, then 2 additional molecules join in and push the channel fully open, promoting persistent calcium leakage. Could this apply to all statins? Although the experiments focused specifically on atorvastatin, the researchers suggest that this unusual binding pattern might be shared, at least in part, across the broader statin drug class. If that turns out to be true, it could mean that many different statins have the potential to disturb muscle calcium handling in a similar way, even if the severity of side effects varies from drug to drug or person to person. And this is where it gets controversial. Should clinicians rethink how aggressively statins are prescribed, or should the focus stay on modifying the drugs themselves? Why this mechanism matters. This is the first time scientists have had such a clear, structural view of how statins can actually activate the RYR1 channel rather than simply block or ignore it. That clarity is a big leap forward because it turns a vague, statins sometimes hurt muscles, concern into a precise, testable mechanism, giving drug designers a concrete blueprint for changing statin molecules so they avoid this problematic interaction. Toward safer next-generation statins. Armed with this structural insight, researchers can now work on tweaking the parts of the statin molecule that interact with RYR1, while preserving the portion that is responsible for blocking cholesterol production in the liver. In practice, that means future statins could be engineered to keep their cardiovascular benefits, lowering LDL cholesterol and reducing heart attack and stroke risk, while dramatically reducing the odds of muscle-related side effects. But here's where it gets interesting. If drug companies succeed, should patients who currently tolerate their statin well still switch to a safer version, or is that overcautious? Muscle side effects, how common and how serious? Severe muscle injury linked to statins, such as rhabdomyolysis, a dangerous breakdown of muscle tissue that can lead to kidney failure, affects only a small percentage of people taking these drugs. However, milder problems, like muscle soreness, cramps, or unusual fatigue, appear much more frequently and are a leading reason people stop or reduce their statin therapy. Since statins are taken by more than 200 million people worldwide, even a small rate of side effects translates into a huge number of patients whose quality of life and treatment adherence may be affected. Adherence and quality of life. If future statins can maintain strong cholesterol-lowering power while greatly lowering the risk of muscle issues, more patients might feel comfortable staying on treatment for the long term. Better tolerance would not just improve day-to-day comfort, fewer aches, more energy, but could also translate into better protection against heart disease because fewer people would abandon a therapy that is otherwise highly effective. Power of advanced imaging. This research also highlights how crucial modern imaging tools have become for drug safety and design. By using UBC's high-resolution macromolecular cryo-electron microscopy facility, the team could actually see the statin-protein interaction in fine detail, turning an abstract safety concern into a visual map of exactly where and how the drug binds. That kind of insight does more than answer a basic science question. It can drive practical improvements in medications that millions of people rely on. What this means for patients. Statins will likely remain a foundational part of cardiovascular care, given their strong track record in reducing heart-related events. The real promise of this research is that it opens the door to statins that deliver the same heart protection with a lower risk of muscle complications, potentially giving patients more confidence and comfort in their treatment. For many people, that could mean fewer muscle complaints and an overall better quality of life while still keeping cholesterol under control. A note on source material. The original report on this study came from a public release that may have been edited over time for clarity, style, and length by the distributing outlet. All views and interpretations presented here reflect the information described in that release and the underlying study, rather than any institutional positions of the distributor. Your turn, what do you think? Here's the part most people miss. If a drug is both life-saving and potentially harmful, who should have the louder voice in deciding what acceptable risk looks like, the researchers, the doctors, or the patients actually living with the side effects? Do you think this kind of finding should push health systems to fast-track development and approval of new, muscle-sparing statins, or are the current options already good enough given how many lives they save? Share whether you feel this study makes you more confident in statins, because the science is getting clearer, or more skeptical, knowing that even widely trusted medications can have hidden downsides that take decades to fully understand.